Good day, folks, and welcome to the Anorak Review Show with your host, the Anorak. Let's close out this debut album month with another one of my favourite bands, Radiohead. So far, I covered a few albums of theirs for the past year or so. OK Computer, In Rainbows, and A Moon-Shaped Pool, each representing a particular decade. OK Computer from the 90s, In Rainbows from the 2000s, and A Moon-Shaped Pool from the 2010s. To give a little backstory on this band, in case I hadn't already, they had their roots as far back as the mid-1980s, as they would form a little school band in Oxfordshire called On a Friday. Then, of course, due to a request from EMI Records, the band had to change their name to something more simple yet distinct and unique. And so they named themselves after the song Radiohead, which originally had a space in between the two words, from the Talking Heads album True Stories. And it's probably a good thing they went with that song in particular, because how awkward would it have been if they named themselves Papa Legba or Dream Operators? And yes, those are actual song titles in the True Stories album. As for Radiohead, they released their first EP in 1992, simply titled Drill. And it wasn't much of a big success, barely managing to reach 101 in the UK charts. However, this wouldn't deter the band, as several months later that same year, they would release their debut single, Creep, which we'll get into soon enough, and soon started growing more attention in both the UK as well as overseas. And eventually, by the dawn of 1993, 30 years ago this month, they released their very first studio album with Parlophone Records, putting Radiohead on the map. Its title was taken from a prank call by a comedy act duo called the Jerky Boys, which involved one of the callers pretending to be the mother of the person answering the phone. The members of Radiohead saw this as fitting since they saw themselves as mother's boys. I know I am as well. However, in retrospect, the band members had come to disregard this album with not much fondness. So, why was it dismissed by the band themselves and yet still beloved by the fans of said band over the years? Well, let's jump into Radiohead's 1993 debut album, Pablo Honey, and find out for ourselves. We begin the album with You. As in you, not us or me, you. Y-O-U. You. And it's quite the introduction to not only the album itself, but the band as a whole. It starts off rather quiet and chill, with the guitars of Ed O'Brien and Johnny Greenwood settling us in for a bit before the drums of Philip Selway and the bass of Colin Greenwood kick in and unveil the hard, grungy alternative rock within. Then, of course, we get the man himself, Tom York, singing with his already distinct and recognizable voice about how you're the sun and moon and stars and I could never run away from you, while I am Mars and Venus and asteroids. You try at working out chaotic things, and why should I believe myself, not you? I know you're trying to have the kitchen tiny and organized, so why wouldn't I believe in you? It's like the world is going to end so soon, and why should I believe myself? I mean, everyone thought the world would end by 2012, then 2016, and then 2020. Who can we believe anymore? You, me, and everything caught in the fire. I can see me drowning, caught in the fire. I guess he didn't take the lesson from Smokey Bear, that only you can prevent forest fires. Or fires in anywhere, really. No, actually, he could be using fire figuratively as opposed to being literal, possibly to mean something like a heated argument or an actual conflict going on. And in between these various verses, we have a wonderfully thrilling guitar riff and solo that might act as a chorus of sorts. The song's lyrics as a whole could be about the obsession with a particular person like a celebrity and their status. seeing them as the sun, moon, and stars, even though in reality, they're still human with human conflicts and human feelings, trying to work out all the chaos around them. However, while You works well as an intro for the Pablo Honey album, but as an introduction to the band as a whole, it manages to pale in comparison to the very next track. And that next track being Creep, their debut single, and most likely a lot of people's introduction to the band. Peaking at number 7 in the UK singles chart, number 6 in Australia's ARIA chart, and number 2 in the US Billboard Alternative Airplay. However, as I might have implied in the beginning of this video, the actual band members themselves soon became overwhelmed by the sudden success they had gotten and were pressured by both executives to replicate said success and by fans and audiences to request playing it live, to the point they'd become grown tired of that song, even disliking it or refusing to play it ever again. Aside from the encore to an Oxford homecoming concert in 2001 due to faulty equipment interrupting a performance of one other song, the opening to the Reading Festival in 2009, the Moonshaped Pool Tour in 2016, and at the Glastonbury Festival in 2017. But aside from those other occasions, no, we're never going to play it again. No, no, no. It's a bad, trashy song and will always be a bad, trashy song. But is it really, though? I mean, I can get being tired of having to play one particular song over and over and over again and being requested to play it over and over and over again. But then again, I imagine a ton of people request them to play stuff like Street Spirit, Paranoid Android, Karma Police, Pyramid Song, and whatever other song they would make up later down the road, and they don't seem to be bothered by those. But as for the music and lyrics, they are indeed something of a genesis for Radiohead's general mood and themes. A solemn, guitar-dominated piece that ranges from soft and peaceful verses to hard and grungy choruses. And said lyrics are about wishing at first to be beautiful and special, to have a perfect body and soul, while being aware and admitting that they're a creep and a weirdo. In a way, this could be about either embracing or even not giving a care about whatever we may look like or however we may be presented. This preconception that you're a weirdo, a creep, an incel, or a basement dweller just because you might look, dress, or even act in a certain particular way. And a way that quite honestly doesn't seem to harm anyone or anything. Even today, with the digital age, internet, social media, and all that, that still seems prevalent and relevant to this day, which may be why a lot of people tend to remain anonymous online through a pseudonym and a visual persona. Because if we were to reveal something about us, like our name, our face, or voice, or whatever, chances are good someone out there would make fun of us just because we look or sound weird. And to add to the irony, a lot of those trolls would likely be hiding behind profile avatars and tag names as well, as if to hide and to project their own insecurities onto other people as targets to be doxxed. But regardless of all that, Creep is still an important part in getting Radiohead the mainstream attention that they may not have wanted, but probably needed at the time. Plus, they were strong enough to withstand the pressure and keep carrying on and making more diverse music. Next is How Do You, the shortest track on the album at 2 minutes and 12 seconds long. It's an energetic, fast-paced rocker, almost reminiscent of the punk songs of the late 70s or the hard metal tunes of the 80s, or even the grungy Nirvana-esque tracks that were going on in in the 90s. And the lyrics themselves seem to have a similar harsh, slandering attitude as well, singing about a stupid baby who turned into a powerful freak, bitter and twisted, and knowing what he wants. So Tom is likely singing about Boris Johnson. Hi-yo! He lives with his mother, but we show him respect. He's a dangerous bigot, but we always forget. Oh, so he's actually singing about Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. Okay, makes sense. He's just like his daddy because he cheats on his friends and he cheats and bullies any way he can. But most of all, worst of all, he tries to evade taxes. Definitely the worst. By the end, as the music starts to distort a bit, there's apparently a brief and faint sample of the aforementioned Jerky Boys prank call track called Pablo Honey, which this track was named after. But upon trying to hear it in repeated listenings, it's kind of hard to make out. It's either buried beneath the distorted sounds, or the sample itself is distorted. Either way, kudos for being sneaky that way. While the song may be somewhat different from what Radiohead would make later on down the road, this is still an interesting and decent tune nonetheless. I don't mind any song sounding different from what may have come before or afterwards in a band. Then we go from the shortest track on the album to the longest, as we get to Stop Whispering. I mean, seriously, I know you're trying to be all comedically dramatic and all, but you're whispering so loud that even the librarians could hear it. So just talk normally, okay? Just talk normally. After the fast pace of How Do You, we soon get to calm down a bit slightly as Tom sings about a wise man and a thin man both saying that they don't want to hear your voice. That must be what Crazy Frog goes through every day in his life. The chorus itself is again simple and straightforward. Stop whispering and start shouting. In a way, it could be telling us to stop being so quiet and hesitant and actually start being open, loud, and honest for once at least. And that's quite honestly a good message for anyone. In the second verse, his mother says that we don't love you, son, so more. You're no son of mine. When you walked out, you left us behind. And the buildings say, let me spit on your face some more. Or some people might be playing a really intense game of spit take from their high offices. The feeling that there's something wrong because I can't find the words and I can't find the song. It's a very, very catchy earworm, and yet I can never find out what it actually is or who it's by. Man, it's gonna bug me. After the second chorus, we get a pretty nifty guitar solo, albeit a short one of about 15 seconds or so. In the third and last verse, or what could also be referred to as the middle eight section, Tom says to Dear Sir that he has a complaint, but can't remember what it is, so it doesn't matter anyway. I think he was trying to file a report on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. And as for the rest of the track, it's epic, emotional 90s rocking instrumentation to close things off. Much like Creep, it may not be as deep or experimental as later Radiohead songs. Stop Whispering is still a cool enough rocker with an interesting and even profound message. If that was actually meant to be part of the intent, that is. Afterwards, we get to Thinking About You. A short yet sweet acoustic heavy piece where Tom sings with just as much emotional serenity as the acoustic guitar itself. As much as a lot of other songs by Radiohead later on, the lyrical content here could be interpreted in a few ways. It could be as simple as a love song, or much like with the You song, about the dedication to celebrity status, as hinted by the your record's a hit line. Your eyes are on my wall, your teeth are over there. Okay, so we're dealing with someone really obsessed with a particular celebrity that they removed and took apart certain body parts and put them up on walls. Totally not dealing with a psychopath here. But I'm still no one, and you're not a star. What do you care? What do I care, eh? Hmm. How about I care about the possibly likely fact that you might have someone's teeth and eyeballs on display? I mean, yeah, okay, he's most likely saying that figuratively instead of literally, like a poster of a celebrity or something, but still. Alternatively, though, it could be about Tom trying to get someone's affections by doing anything he could, buying cigarettes, bribing the company to come and see them, even bleeding for them. What seems like a simple love song at first listen, might actually be about deconstructing the very status of romance and celebrity. Even before they made it big, the band already knew soon enough how much it would feel. Side 1 ends with anyone can play guitar. I know I wish I could. The best I could do is a freaking ukulele. Speaking of, after the short, peaceful acoustic nature of Thinking About You, Anyone Can Play Guitar returns to the 90s grungy style of the overall album and of the time it was made. Next to the to those distorted guitars, the muffled bass, and the crisp percussion, Tom once again sings deconstructively about the idealism of celebrity and the music industry. Here with a more clear, sarcastic statement about someone's dreaming and fantasizing about being a rock star. So he's singing about Nickelback before Nickelback were a thing. Go figure. To the point that it's no longer about making music to begin with or wanting to make music in the first place, but more about just having that sense of fame and fortune. Cliche, I know, but still. This person that Tom sings about, or sings as, seems to be in a sort of state of denial, as demonstrated when he sings, "Here we are with our running and confusion, and I see no confusion anywhere. And if the world does turn, and if London burns, I'll be standing on the beach with my guitar." How we may idolize certain people and want to be just like them, or at least our perceived views of them, like when Tom name drops Jim Morrison of The Doors, wanting to grow hair and be just like him. Unlike me, I want to grow my hair and be like Bob's show. He's a good YouTuber, go check him out. Tom has hopes, dreams, and fantasies, wanting to be in a band when he gets to heaven. Anyone can play guitar, and they won't be a nothing anymore. This idea that by being somewhat musically gifted, we could be remotely satisfied with ourselves instead of having to be content with where, who, and what we are right now in reality. That just because some people were lucky enough to make it into popularity with music, somehow meaning that anyone can make it into the music business without actually having to put in the hard work and effort that it requires. Kind of like how some people get to become online internet critics that make shows about nostalgic movies and media, that we could all be internet critics the more I think about it.